Hey everybody, welcome back to Leading Thriving Cities, our new show where we want to shine a spotlight on leadership in public service and have deep conversations about creating a thriving future for our cities. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners. Today's guest is Chief Mike Harmon from the city of Cedar Park, Texas. He's been the police chief there now for a few years, and he's been in public service for over 3 decades. He has some great insight into leadership for the next generation. What is it, the organizations and leadership, how does it need to shift to prepare for leading millennials, leading Gen Z, and what is that going to look like for their future? And I'll be honest with you, you want to stick around for the most special moment ever when we talk about the importance of stickers in policing. And he gave me my very own sticker. I'm now a junior police officer. Don't mean to brag, but it's true. Thank you so much for joining us today on Leading Thriving Cities. Chief Harmon, thanks for being with us today on Leading Thriving Cities. So we're just going to jump right into the first question.
All right.
What is it you wish, like one big thing you wish people understood about being a police chief? Because it is so, we see on TV what we think it is, but what is it really like? What do you want people to know?
So that's a good question, Chad, and been thinking about that for a while. And, you know, the thing I want people to know is being the chief in law enforcement is it's more about, you know, enforcing the laws and maintaining order. It's really about building and fostering relationships with the community. Mm-hmm. So we're building that trust, and you know we're trying to be as transparent as possible with everything that we do, whether it's our policies or our operations, and making sure that people understand that we're a department that truly cares about the community, about Cedar Park.
Yeah.
And so, you know, again, that's a full-time job, right? Because I got 150 employees, and so you have to have buy-in of the mission. And you know, we have to be not only reactive to crimes, but we have to be proactive.
Yeah.
And that's where it takes all of us. It takes the police department, it takes the community, city leadership, and we have to build those partnerships. And we have to understand each other's role to help Cedar Park thrive and be the community that it is, and to, you know, to reduce the crime here in Cedar Park, so people have that sense of safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, 2 things you said in there was transparency and relationships, and you said the work's never done, and I think that's interesting because relationally, like we can establish a good relationship, but if we don't keep investing in that, it's going to atrophy, right? It's going to just wither. Right. So that it's that nonstop relationship building, so we always know each other. The transparency side too, that is nonstop work, isn't it?
It is.
And everybody has a different idea of what that means, right?
Yeah, everybody has a different idea, and you hear that word thrown out, you know, pretty loosely from time to time. You need to be more transparent. You need to do this, be transparent. And I think, you know, we do a pretty good job in the city and as the police department as a whole. Now, can we do a better job? Probably, of course, but that's where those relationships come in. Those where those conversations come in with our community to get that feedback, to see what does that mean to them.
Yes.
What does transparency mean? What do you want to see from your police department that we can give back to you? You know, we do provide a lot of data on our website, a lot of our reports that we have to report to the state, also internal reports. We don't hide our policies and procedures. We put those online. We try to keep people informed on all of our social media platforms, community events, whatever it takes. And so just getting that feedback from our community, what transparency means to them means a whole lot to us. So then we have a better idea what they're looking for.
Because there's very little you look at and go, well, we don't want them to see this.
Right.
There's probably some things legally you can't necessarily put out there in the world, but outside of that, transparency is good for everybody. It's just figuring out, do we agree on what that even means?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're right. That is very much a relational journey, isn't it?
Oh, of course. And that's every day. You know, it takes a commitment every single day that we come to work.
Yeah.
that is our role. That is our mission.
So this is one of, I think, the great challenges in police work, especially at the chief level, is you got 150 people out there representing the city and representing your vision for what what it should be. And of those 150 people, some are going to be naturally more relational than others. And of those that are naturally relational, some are going to have good days and bad days. How do you wrestle with that, like getting that down to the core base level of all the troops to say, hey, here's what we want to be to this community? Is this a conversation you're having on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, we do have that conversation on an ongoing basis. And as you well know, a few years ago, we took the opportunity to revamp our mission and our guiding values.
Y'all did a great job, by the way.
Well, I wonder why. we had a great coach to help us through that. No, but I thought it was important for us to do that because we had the same mission statement for years, probably since 1999. Yeah. And as I explained to you during the process, it was very long. It was very wordy, had a lot of good buzzwords in there, but nobody in our department really knew what it meant. And so I took the opportunity as the interim chief to say, hey, here's a time for us to kind of do a reset, a rebrand. Let's think about who we are and what we mean to this community. Yeah. And as you know, we sat through various work sessions, focus groups.
With a pretty broad group of people from across the entire department.
We had brand new people up to, ones that have been there, almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And so this really came from the people at the department. Sworn personnel, the officers, civilians, supervisors, line officers, whatever. And we had good conversations in those group meetings.
Yeah.
And it was very important that if we're going to develop a new mission, it must be easy to remember, and it must mean something.
Yeah.
And so really they're the ones that came up with the engage, inspire, and protect.
Yep.
3 words.
Yep.
Right? Now we have some subcategories under those. But you see it pretty much all over our police department. It's on our patches, it's on our cars.
Yep.
And
it's on your wristbands.
It's all over our wristbands.
I left mine at home. I should have brought it. That's on me.
My keep moving forward, which every day I look at and say, keep moving forward. But it was important to give them a sense of meaning.
Yeah.
And, like you said several times in those meetings, when you're having those days where you don't want to get up, you don't want to go to work, you think about those 3 words and what that means to that individual, to our community, and to our department, to give them that little spark, that little fire of, man, I can get up today, I can go engage with people, I can inspire, I can protect them, because not in every job you have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And our folks see that on a daily basis. That's an opportunity, whatever kind of call it is they're on, they have an opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life.
Yes.
They may know it, they may not know it, right? And a lot of times we actually do get real good positive feedback from our community and compliments, but not every job is like that. And so that constant reminder and putting out those compliments when we get those in to reinforce their behavior and what the mission is very important, not only to me as a chief, but to our entire department. And I think it speaks volumes that we do get those compliments quite a bit, actually. And so that's great that our folks are out there doing that. They're following our mission. They're engaging, right? They're inspiring, they're protecting. But our citizens feel that, they can send those compliments in too. And praise an officer or, or
the engage, inspire, protect. Engage and protect totally makes sense for law enforcement, right? I've seen other departments that have similar language. The inspire part was always the part that got me excited. I believe you can completely enforce the law.
Absolutely.
You can provide safety, and you can in no way be inspirational to anyone.
Right.
and to understand, hey, I'm pulling this person over for safety reasons. I'm pulling them over because ultimately they're creating a little bit of danger, going a little fast. Can I, in some small way, inspire them in this engagement right now? Mm-hmm. That excited me to say, yes, we're dealing with some people on their most negative days, most negative encounters. Can I be inspirational somehow and impact their life in a positive way?
Right.
That was exciting. And one of the other things I loved was, we set out the guiding values as well. And one of y'all's guiding values was empathy. Mm-hmm. That ability to kind of feel what other people are feeling. And in all situations, I think about how that guides law enforcement and how different that is from history. I don't know that a law enforcement agency going through the same process 20 years ago even would have said, you know what, empathy. We should definitely feel what people are feeling.
Exactly.
And I think it brings such a human element to it to say, hey, we're human. We're doing the best we can. You're human. Right now you're doing the best you can. Can we at least connect on that? And then we got to go do the things we got to go do together. I think that human side is really, hopefully, long-term going to yield some really positive things for the internal culture, yield positive things for the city itself, and really for the citizens, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have conversations with our staff or department meetings, mm-hmm. and we do talk a lot about empathy and effective communication with mm-hmm. the public. And you're right, 20 years ago, that wouldn't even have been a word in law enforcement, that we don't operate like that.
Yeah.
But we're in the 21st century. We've
mm-hmm.
gone through a lot. Law enforcement's kind of its own worst enemy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done things this way because that's the way we've always done them.
Yeah.
You'll hear that a lot.
Kind of get entrenched in
that,
right?
And cops, as you know, they hate two things: the way things are and change.
It's the second time today that's come up.
But you have to make those changes to keep up.
Yeah.
With the profession, the community. Your community's changing. Cedar Park has changed. I've been here since 1998. It has changed tremendously.
Yes.
And to have a police department that's going to thrive and be embedded in the community, you have to change.
Yeah.
And so to have empathy, I tell our folks is we're all human beings. We put on the uniform every day, but we have bad days just like everybody else does. Yeah. And, that's when we see people usually at their worst is on mm-hmm. their bad day and they call and we have to respond. That doesn't mean they're a bad person. That just means they're having a bad day for whatever's going on.
Yeah.
So as human beings, giving them or, allowing them that voice, telling us what's going on, mm-hmm. understanding, put yourself in that position. That could be a family member, a good friend or a relative, or it could be yourself, right? So to go in there and communicate with somebody on a human level mm-hmm. and to understand what they're going through, I think speaks volumes for our folks.
Yeah.
And now, we may have to enforce the law or, maintain mm-hmm. that order or, but that's part of our job. But we can do that professionally and we can do it where we're still treating that person with respect, compassion, and dignity.
Yeah, you value them as a human being
Absolutely.
Despite what they've done. You're still going to have to take them to jail, but
right.
we're still going to care about them in the process.
Yeah, and we've oddly enough, we've actually had people that we've arrested for various, crimes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I will get an email, and they will be thanking the officer or the department for the way that they were treated through the entire process.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very unusual to have people do that. Or
if you take somebody to jail and you get a thank you note, you've done something right somewhere in the process. Right?
And I'm sitting there thinking, I'll start reading it and I'm like, uh-oh. But it's like that officer treated me with compassion and respect, and they had empathy, and I understand they were just doing their job, but it's how they treated me through that whole process, and that's an opportunity to change somebody's life. And we'll get a couple of those. This was an opportunity, I reflected on my life. I've taken these steps to do X, Y, and Z, mm-hmm. To be a better person or whatever like that. But to me, that's what law enforcement means in the 21st century. And moving forward, we have to continue and build on that. We can't revert back to how we were 10, 15, 20 years ago in law enforcement. It's just not going to work.
So part of building on that, we talked about the idea that law enforcement can get very entrenched in ideas of here's how it's done.
Yep.
And part of what I see that kind of trips you up sometimes is that entrenched in that is everything outside of that is a threat somehow. Mm-hmm. And so how can law enforcement learn to start thinking more openly, being more curious, more creative, to say, hey, we can't just keep doing it like this. There are things outside that are good. They're not all threats.
Yeah.
Transparency is a great example, right?
Right.
Ultimately, long-term, transparency handled properly is really, really good for law enforcement.
Yeah.
If people can look in and see the way we're doing things and thinking and executing on things, they can see that we're doing the best we can, right?
Yes.
That's a good thing. And yet you say transparency, I think you'll hear a lot of people hear a threat, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're trying to catch me doing something.
Right.
And so ultimately, what can we do to be more creative and to think a little bit differently?
I think it starts at the top. And, like I said, the mission has to be conveyed throughout the entire department. And not just, this is how we're going to do it because I'm the chief. You have to explain to people and why we're doing things. And, the benefits of, your mission and your guiding values. And you have to make sure that they're being involved with the community. Mm-hmm. And you'll hear that, quite a bit from different chiefs. But it's, for Cedar Park, I truly believe, like I said, I've been here since '98. We live in one of the best communities around.
Yeah.
I tell our officers every day, don't take it for granted that we have people in Cedar Park that truly appreciate not only law enforcement but public safety as a whole.
Yeah,
and our
I
officers
see that over and over. And
oh
over
yeah, they'll
again.
be out to breakfast or dinner or lunch, and somebody anonymously is picking up the check for them or thanking them for their service or whatever.
Every time I'm on a ride along with somebody that we stop and have a meal, I'm always prepared to buy their meal. I don't know that I've ever had to.
Yeah.
Every single time somebody else paid for our meal. And that's rare in this day and age, but in Cedar Park it seems to be just kind of, that's the connection and relationship y'all have.
Yes. I mean, I always joke that if I have to go into Costco on my way home for something or whatever, there's probably 5 people that will come up and thank me for being a police officer and being a police officer in Cedar Park.
Yeah.
And like, I appreciate that. They don't have to do that, but they go out of their way to come up and say thank you, which speaks volumes. I think the relationship that our community has with our officers is how, we keep building on that empathy, having empathy for our community, reinforcing the mission and our guiding values frequently, department meetings or in just casual conversations. Like you said, it's working when you hear people in the hallway joking about it, That's
Which
true.
happens pretty quickly.
That's true. Yeah. And how long ago, you did tell me it usually takes about 5 years to get the message out, to get people to get on board. And I think we're into...
That was 2020.
Yeah. So we're 4 years into it, and it just seems to be thriving in our department.
It's a foundation that y'all are building really, really well on. And part of your foundation with the city, you've been there 26 years, you said, and in law enforcement a little over 30.
Yeah.
So 26 years is a long time in one community. And that's going from, I'm guessing, frontline patrol officer all the way up.
Yes.
So through that time, it's a long period of time in one place. But through that time, you obviously had to overcome a lot of internal challenges yourself in that process. What are some of the things you had to fight through internally to be able to continue to advance in this career?
Struggling with internal issues is just you work for various supervisors over your career, and you see you have some good ones, you have some bad ones, right? Yeah. But it's really the bad ones that kind of stick out in your mind, and you think to yourself, that is not how I would treat people, or how I would operate as a supervisor.
You learn a lot about what not to do.
You do.
Yeah.
You definitely do. Now the good ones, you take the good parts away from it and everything, but it's just that struggle of you know where you want to get to because you want to be that leader in the department. that's providing opportunities for the people that are in your command, and then and other people as well.
Yeah.
It's just that it's that opportunity, to give back and to provide opportunities and chances for other people under you, to bring them up, and hopefully that carries on even after I'm gone, from the department. Yeah. That Cedar Park continues to operate how it is, and even better. Yeah. In the future.
Yeah. That's having those supervisors that are a little tough, right?
Right.
I think the reality is, for people listening to this that have never been involved in law enforcement, the promotional process is, I think we would all agree, not the best on the planet. And so you can end up with supervisors that they know technically how to supervise. Mm-hmm. They're just not great at leading people.
Right.
And so in those seasons, it's really hard to be under that supervisor and going, oh, I'm soaking up information here about what not to do. You're just like, oh, get me out of here. Do I want to deal with this? But you look back long term and go, man, those were actually some of the most informative and helpful ones,
right,
whether I wanted to acknowledge it at the time or not.
Yeah.
I look back at my career, I never planned on leading people. I never planned on having a leadership company and building a team. But what I was learning in the middle of some really hard times under some rough supervisors, so helpful, because a lot of it was, I want to build the opposite of that. I want people, they can't wait to show up every single day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I want people, even after 30 years in this business, I still come to work and I love this job.
Yeah.
This is one of the best careers, one of the best jobs that I'll ever have. And, I'm kind of towards the end of it, and I look at all these new folks coming in, and I just look at them and think, there's so much potential. Yeah. There's, full of opportunity for these folks in this department especially. And it makes me excited because the quality of people that are coming into the business now and that we are hiring are just outstanding. I mean, they get, being involved with the community, effectively communicating with people.
The relational side, the vulnerability, this generation gets it better than we did.
They do. And I think a lot of it is that whole work-life balance that's very important to them now. Is, I'm a Gen Xer, so us was, you work sun up to sundown, and
first through a wall, don't we?
Oh yeah, and if you had 400 vacation hours at the end of the year, that was like a trophy. You're like, yeah, I had 400 hours of vacation. Who can beat that? But now, the I'll say the new generation, but the folks coming into the workforce understand there has to be a balance.
Yes.
And that is so important.
I don't know if you're a Marvel movie person, but I just watched the latest Deadpool movie. And,
I saw that.
And there's this line in there where somebody complains about something, and he goes, oh, these millennials and Gen Zs with their trauma. He said, why can't you just turn it into productivity and cancer like the rest of us? And I thought that was such a great comment on just the nature of us in the Gen X and the boomer generations of we're just going to head down and run forward. And yet that's not actually helpful long term. It's not sustainable.
No.
And so I see this next generation as they come up, they have so many skills that we lack. Now, I think they lack some of the resilience that we've learned, and we need to help with that.
Sure.
I'm curious, as this new generation is coming in, has that forced y'all's leadership to upgrade as well? Because you cannot lead these generations the same way we've led the current ones. Has that forced y'all to change how you think about things and how you do things?
100%. Because if I was going to lead the way I was led throughout my career, we probably wouldn't have anybody in the workforce at our department, right?
Yes.
I remember being promoted to corporal. My corporal stripes were literally thrown across the desk, and the comment made to me was, "These come off as fast as they go on." And I was like, okay, thank you for the words of encouragement, sir.
Here's the promotion. Don't lose it, idiot.
Yes. And so, but now you have to balance the whole work-life balance.
Yeah.
Making sure that our staff has the time off that they need, the mental health resources, really, in law enforcement that they need, and providing those opportunities for them to be able to reach out to somebody if they're having, struggles or family members struggle.
Yeah.
Again, something that, was not the norm coming through the business years ago.
And it's still not quite the norm. It's moving in that direction.
It is. It's, unfortunately, it's taken a long time. And, and I look back on my career and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I should have probably talked to somebody about that situation or that call or, whatever it may be. But now that is becoming the norm, and making sure that our staff has those resources, that's very important, because if we can keep them healthy, then we know that they'll be out there providing the best service to our community as possible.
Yes.
So that's important.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. And if we don't have those resources in place, you're going to lose that next generation.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
They know those things are needed, and they're going to experience some of the same things y'all experienced early on.
Yep.
They want to do something with that. We've learned, we as human beings, we're terrible when we just stuff these things down and pretend they don't affect us.
Oh, yeah.
I've been to a couple of your ceremonies where you're bringing in new officers. You're like a proud dad. Not old enough to be most of their dads. Let's acknowledge that.
I don't know.
However,
the ones now coming in,
I was talking to one
young.
the other day, and I was like, holy crap, this kid could be my son. It was so annoying.
Yeah.
But I've seen you at those ceremonies, and you are just beaming. Like there's, I think for you, promoting people and then bringing new officers in and swearing them in, those are probably your favorite things.
Oh, it is. Again, I think back when I went through different processes and got promoted and stuff, and it wasn't like that. And that's a big milestone in somebody's career, in somebody's life. So to have that day where they can bring their family and have a ceremony of celebration, it speaks volumes.
Yes.
And, it makes them proud for what they've achieved and what they've earned.
Yeah.
And it is, we usually hold them on Fridays, and that is like my favorite thing to do, because you can just see the smiles on their faces, the smiles on their families' faces. They'll have their kids come up and, pin the badge on for them or, whatever.
Which you would have loved as a corporal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not your sergeant throwing stripes at you.
No. Yeah, exactly. Good luck to you. Okay.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in those ceremonies, obviously you give a talk, you kind of connect with the officers and with their families. What's some of the best advice you give them? What's some of the things you think they need to hear going into this career?
So we talk about, and I like to convey the message of, number one is you're joining a department and a community that truly appreciates law enforcement.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're treating every person out there with compassion and respect and dignity.
Yeah, they have to steward that relationship.
Don't forget about that. Make sure that you're handling every call for service and in a professional manner. And, you're thinking through decisions and not just making a quick knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
We talk about mental health resiliency and making sure that you're taking care of yourself, taking care of your family. Because if you're not taking care of yourself or your family, then you're not coming to work and being the best person that you can be.
Yes.
And then that carries over out in our community.
Yes.
And that's not good for anybody.
Yep.
And, we talk a lot about, the profession and the integrity and the ethical decisions that they'll be faced with down the road. And really, the officers are jacks of all trades when they go out there. I mean, they're counselors, sometimes they're parents, sometimes they're mental health professionals,
Yeah.
So they have to be knowledgeable and keep up with current events and current laws and case law and stuff like that. So they're making the best decisions possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you encounter a young person that says, I'm thinking about going into law enforcement, what do you tell them?
I tell them that this is still one of the best professions ever.
Yeah.
I said, there is no other profession, I think, where you can have, if you are a true public servant at heart, there's no other profession where you can have an impact on somebody every single day of your career.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely true. I mean, from the time you clock on to the time you clock off, and even after hours, you can make an impact in somebody's life.
Yep.
You may know it. Like, again, you may not know it.
Yeah.
But, the opportunity is there on every single call, every single traffic stop, every single encounter you have with the citizen.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just you're at dinner and, a little kid comes up to you and wants a sticker or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are the most valuable things we carry, are stickers.
Everybody wants a sticker.
Everybody wants a sticker. And
I've been working with you guys for 5 years now.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gotten a sticker.
Hold on.
Do you actually have them on you?
Chad, this is the most valuable thing we have right here, buddy. Yeah,
this right
there
here,
you
folks,
go.
is why I do this. This and challenge coins. This is it for me. Thank you for that.
Yeah, if you don't have stickers on you, you're not doing something
That
right.
is amazing.
Because
I love
literally,
that.
I hand those out every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just that little sticker
It means the world to some of
means
those kids.
the world you're right, to some little kid. And, when they're older and they grow up, they'll remember that encounter.
One of our other interviews we did today was with Chief Banks from Round Rock, who is a good friend of yours.
Oh,
you
great
know really
guy.
well.
Yes.
He's a pain, but he's a great guy. You can be honest. No, he was talking about the idea that he knew from the age of 3 that he was called to be a police officer. And you never know when you're handing one of these out to a kid, like that is a kid who 20, 25 years from now could be doing this exact same job. That
Absolutely.
may be what they are meant to do. They are meant to have an impact. And you're a part of that story.
Oh, yeah.
But that's so hard to hold on to in the moment. So
Right.
looking at your 30-plus year career, were there seasons when you weren't able to hold on to that idea that every call matters, everything is a chance to impact somebody? Did you go through some of those harder seasons?
Yeah, I definitely did. I can think back to when I was working 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. We were working 8-hour shifts back then. And your days off rotated every month. You may have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Very rarely did you get a weekend off unless you took vacation time.
Yeah.
And, for a young guy and just starting a family, that was hard.
Yeah.
Because you see your family going to events, you're having to work weekends and holidays. Schedules are kind of being, shifted around what your hours were. And the mental health resources weren't there.
Yep.
In fact, they weren't even talked about.
No.
Back then.
No, you lived in the season of just suck it up.
Yeah. So if you were, having a bad day or a bad call or whatever, and you said something about it to somebody, they're like, "Oh, just suck it up.
Yeah.
Deal with it."
Yeah.
That's what we see every single day. And that was the extent of your coaching right there. The pep talk. That's what you got. Suck it up. Move on.
That's the same guy that threw corporal stripes
Oh
at you.
yeah. And so I kind of I was going through a dark time, and I was thinking, man, do I even want to do this anymore? Because I'm not seeing my family, I don't see my friends. I'm working 3 to 11. It's hot, and then by the time you get home, it's almost midnight. You get to bed at 2 or whatever after you kind of wind down, and then you're back up doing it all again. The next day, and then your days off were during the week. So by yourself, what'd you really do?
Yep.
And so I think we've made a big shift on the work-life balance. And now the guys, they work 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
But first of all, they love it because they get every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday off.
Yeah.
So they get 2 weekends a month.
Yep.
And then, their days during the week and everything. But then if you take a vacation day, you're only burning a short amount of vacation hours to have a longer weekend.
Yeah.
And so I think that does give them a better work-life balance than what we had coming up through the profession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the one thing with law enforcement is understanding there's never going to be a perfect situation. No. There's never going to be, we have to provide 24-hour coverage.
Yep.
There is never going to be an easy way to do this where everybody goes, oh, this is the easiest schedule in the world.
Right.
Love it. It's not going to happen. I think this also then shows how important healthy leadership is in law enforcement, because if you're in that season, you're working that tough schedule and you've got a young family, to have a supervisor above you who's of the attitude of just suck it up, you'll be fine.
Right.
You don't feel supported. You don't feel like this person understands you. Whereas in this day and age, I would hope it'd be a little more, okay, you need to flex because you got a kid in a play or playing basketball or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Let's flex. Let's figure out how we can do that.
Yeah.
But you got to be a healthy leader to even care about the people below you.
Absolutely, 100%. You have to, be flexible, and you have to understand that is important for your staff to be able to thrive.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so the leadership nowadays has to be on board with that 100%.
Yes.
You can't have that leadership that we had 20 years ago, and the whole
which
suck
is
it up
interesting
kinda.
because you have such a mix of people.
We do.
You've got some that do still kind of have that mentality
Yep.
and get a little frustrated with the new way of doing things. You got those that are totally on board.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, I think, for the next probably decade or so, it's just going to be that mixture, right?
I think so. Yeah.
If I came up in let's be honest, the way y'all came up in law enforcement, it's a pretty broken system that's
Right.
a little bit abusive to people.
Yeah.
If I came up in that, it's really hard for me to go, yes, let me care for you and your family.
Right.
And so it makes sense that some people are not fully on board, even if it would be better for them to be on board.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're going to be a successful leader in this business now and in the future, you have to adjust.
Yes.
You have to adapt.
Yeah.
You have to change, and whatever you need to do to make that happen,
Yes.
you have to do it.
You have to almost be like, one thing you push all the time is education.
Yep.
And sometimes education is formal, it's going to college. A lot of times it's just being a student of something. I always describe myself as a student of leadership. I love learning about leadership nonstop. There's always something new I can learn and then help my clients understand. I love that. And so some of that flexibility comes from, I don't have anything figured out. I am on a quest to learn things, not to ever stop and check the box and go, done. And I think that's the thing that's missing sometimes, is that hunger for new and that curiosity.
Yeah, you have to be that student of leadership, like you said. And, it's funny because I really didn't know what that meant. I'm like, wow, years ago, what does that mean? Do I have to take more leadership classes? And then it kind of dawned on me, like, every movie I watch or just listening to people talk, I'll pick out bits and pieces of that conversation.
Yes.
Or just, I think it was last night, I was watching something and I'm like, wow, that guy just said something to me. So I pulled out my phone and I voice recorded it.
Yeah.
So I would remember for the next day.
Yes.
And, I'm like, okay, that's what being a student of leadership means. Is
Yes.
you're like every day.
Yeah.
You're picking up new information,
Yeah.
little pieces of information out there, little nuggets to help build on your leadership skills.
Yeah.
But it's, my wife kind of looks at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm voice recording, but I'll forget it if I don't. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's with everything, on day to day.
You view it all through that same lens. One of the projects we're working on here is we want to do a set of special episodes where we basically break down the series Band of Brothers.
Yes.
And pull one or two leadership lessons from every episode. The interesting part is I think we could do that exercise a year later, do it again, we would get entirely different leadership principles from it, because you're seeing things always through. Oh, it's also going through the filter of here's what I'm in the middle of in the moment.
Yep.
So things are going to click when they don't, and so it's just always being hungry for more of that.
Always.
And it's funny, you know the people in your organization that are that person,
Right.
And you know the ones that are just not, for whatever reason they're stuck, or they're not that person.
Yeah.
I'm curious. One of the reasons we do this is we're really trying to start a much broader conversation about sustainability in public service. I don't believe the way we do things in public service right now is sustainable. There's not enough resources. There's a lot of really tired people bridging that gap where there are not the resources. What do cities need to rethink entirely in terms of how to help people thrive, to make sure there is a sustainable future where our teams are thriving, we're getting applicants, it hasn't dried up on us because we're just doing it the way we've always done it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, in talking with various chiefs out there, especially in the region, we always kind of run things by each other and see how things are going, just checking in and stuff. And you hear bits and pieces from different chiefs. But, what seems to be the common theme is making sure that your cities, and I think Cedar Park does this very well, and it could improve on, right? We can always improve on everything. But just making sure that open collaboration is taking place, not only with all city departments within the city, but the public education, it could be social services, it could be, other law enforcement agencies and stuff like that. But just making sure that open communication is taking place. Because just for example, in our city, for Cedar Park to thrive, it takes an entire city department.
Yeah.
Right. Streets department, parks department,
Yep.
bill engineering and everything like that. So we all have to be collaborating with each other to make sure that we're providing the best services that we can, and that our citizens are being serviced very well.
Yeah.
And when our folks see that, and we give them the opportunity, like, hey, if you see something happening or whatever, call the parks department or whatever, and make a contact and get to know so-and-so, so you can basically cut through all the red tape and go to your point of contact, get something taken care of, really fast. And that's, protecting our city, making sure that our citizens are safe and taken care of as well.
Yeah.
Also is, make sure we're keeping up with, the latest and greatest technology, and not only in law enforcement, but, across the city as well. And again, I think we do a pretty good job at that. We're fortunate enough in Cedar Park that we have a council that's very supportive of public safety, which I think is huge for people coming into the business.
Yes.
And because you kind of see the rhetoric out there to the cities of the South, and and we've actually recruited some of those folks to come to Cedar Park. But just when they get here, they can't believe how supportive the community is, how supportive the leadership is, city management and the council, and it's like they've never seen that. And
what's funny is when I look at cities that are struggling to hire, I can also almost always point to a very chaotic council. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that councils, when you're first running for council, right, it's because either you want to help or you hate something and you want to fix it, right? I don't think they understand how much they have to do with the reputation of the city. If I've got a council that is supportive and trusts the staff, that is such a great relationship, because then you're not sitting there having to double check every single thing the staff does. It's not your role.
Right.
Your role is to set direction and support the staff in what they do from there, right?
100%.
And so it's really, really it's beneficial having a council that is united, says, hey, we are here to support this city, and the best way to do that is supporting the staff.
Oh, yeah.
That's huge.
I attend pretty much almost every council meeting, and there's not a
you're familiar with them.
There's not a council meeting that goes by that the council at the end is thanking the staff for their work and all the hard work that they put into everything. And you see them supporting public safety. You'll see them at the fire department's promotional ceremonies or awards banquets, and the same with us. And for our folks just to see that, and to see our council and our city leadership participating and interacting with our folks speaks volumes.
It does. Yes.
And they kind of shy away from it, like, whoa, I've never experienced this before. Well, you're in Cedar Park. That's how we operate.
This is how
here.
We do things. This is who we choose to elect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they truly support public safety.
That's huge.
100%.
That makes a difference. And I loved what you had to say about the departments working together. Like, it's so often, and I wonder if there's a correlation now between chaotic councils and cities that are very siloed. But I've encountered cities that are incredibly siloed. The departments do not interact well together. And the ones that they do, and speaking of Chief Banks, I think this is a point he brought up, is he sees that in Round Rock where the departments work well together. The directors get along. They want to help each other, and it's not a competition.
No,
I think that's huge with cities in terms of we're one big group made up of a lot of small groups serving the public together.
Oh, yeah.
And 100%. That uniting mission is one of the most important things cities provides.
Yeah, having that collaboration and those relationships. Our folks can get things done a lot faster. Same with other city departments. If they're needing, law enforcement resources or whatever it may be, they know they don't just call me. Like, they have contacts throughout the department, which is fantastic. Yeah. And, they can reach out to whoever it may be and get whatever they need, and we get it done, just like that.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic.
Love it.
That cross communication. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Man, this has been such a good conversation. Thank you for
Yeah,
being
I
a
enjoyed
guest.
it. Yeah, thank you very much. And enjoy
you-
your sticker. Wear it proudly.
Listen, don't think I won't, buddy. I'm going to seriously put this on tonight. My wife is going to look at me in a very
Lord.
unimpressed
Lord
way.
help us.
But I'm going to wear it. Thank you so much for doing this. We've been
Absolutely.
working together a long time. I
Absolutely.
was so excited to have you on here.
Yes,
'cause
excited
we
to
have
be
some,
here.
We have some good conversations on a regular
Yes,
basis.
we do.
So,
Yes, we
well, I
do.
appreciate you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Chad.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for Leading Thriving Cities. You might also like our other podcast, The Leader Lab. You can find it on all the major podcast platforms and on YouTube. Just search for The Leader Lab. Each episode is under 10 minutes. It's just a quick thought to help you level up your leadership. You'll also find all the other leadership content we are putting out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just search for @ForwardPartner.